And we were discussing the properties of colloidal solutions. So properties, some of the properties were discussed by us. Now few more properties are left. Those properties we have to discuss. So that was the charge on colloidal particles. I told you that this is an important topic and questions are based on this topic particularly. So what is I told you that on colloidal particles are bigger in size than the true solution particles. So there is a particular type of charge present on these colloidal particles. Maybe these colloidal particles have a positive charge on its surface. So all particles will have the same charge, positive. So they repel each other. And because of this repulsion, they are not coagulating and they are separate from each other. Or they may have negative charge. So all particles in the one colloidal solution will have negative charge. Clear? Now, how this charge is acquired, this we have to see. Suppose a solution is made using AgNO3 and Ki. AgNO3 plus Ki. Okay, so AgI is formed, means Ki is used as dispersion medium and this is dispersed phase. Okay, now when Ki is dispersion medium, it is used in large quantity, this is used in small quantity. Agi is the colloidal size particle formed. When this colloidal size particle is formed, then which charge it will acquire, because this is in more quantity. So this iodine is negative charge of I and the sol formed is negatively charged sol. Okay, same way, if Ki is added to AgNO3 solution, means dispersion medium is AgNO3 and dispersed phase is Ki. In that case also the product form will be Agi, but the charge which is adsorbed on the surface is Ag positive. Okay, so it forms a positive charge salt. The same substance can form positive or negative charge salt depending on the dispersion medium which is available. So this is the particular property of colloidal solutions. One more example I will give you. So you have to remember that AgNO3, 2-3 examples are there in the book. One is of AgNO3 plus Ki. So Ki is the dispersion medium, it is a negatively charged salt. If AgNO3 is a dispersion medium, then you will have positively charged salt. Then one more example which we have taken previously also was of ferric chloride FeCl3 when dissolved in water and heated. So that means hot water when reacts with it, it forms ferric hydroxide sol. This here the dispersion medium is water. That time what happens? Fe3 positive is adsorbed on the surface. So you cannot decide on your own that what will be adsorbed. Okay, it is in the natural way how the colloidal salt particles are formed in the particular type of solution. In ferric chloride, ferric ions are adsorbed on the surface. So this becomes a positive charged salt. Okay, if FeCl3 is dissolved in NaOH as a dispersion medium, then in that case ferric hydroxide is formed, but the particles which are adsorbed on the surface are OH negative, and this becomes a negatively charged salt. Okay, so depending on the dispersion medium and the type of adsorption takes place on the surface of the colloidal particle, the sol may be positively charged or negative charged, but it is true that it will have any of the two charges, either positive or negative charge. Clear? So this is about charge on colloidal particles. Clear? So this was the last property which was left that day for colloidal size particles. Okay. Now, when there is a charge, for example, we just had discussed about FeOH whole thrice, which was having Fe2 positive, Fe3 positive on its surface. By the reaction of FeCl3 plus water, which was giving this, plus HCl will also be formed as byproduct. Now what happens when this positive charge is adsorbed on the surface like this? So the negative charge which is present in chlorine, this also forms a layer around it. So more protection takes place. Means a positive layer surrounded by a negative layer of the ions present in the solution. If a sol is of negative charge, then positive charge will form a second layer. So this layer is formed in every colloidal solution. This layer is actually known as electrical double layer. Okay. Once there was a question in exam that what is electrical double layer in colloidal solution. So what is electrical double layer? That when a particular charge is adsorbed on the surface of a colloidal size particle, then the opposite charge is attracted from the solution and it forms a second layer around the first layer. This is known as electrical double layer. Okay. When this layer is formed, there is a potential difference created between these two layers because one is positive and the other is negative. So potential difference is created. This potential is known as zeta potential. The name of this potential is zeta potential. Though it has no significance in the existence of colloidal size particles, but still. Erin, it's too late to join. Erin and Shruti. Erin and Shruti?
Yes, ma'am.
It's too late to join the class. Why?
Ma'am, there is problem in Google Meet.
What problem?
Ma'am, when I'm connect the and they say that close the call and then start, and even
so you are operating it in wrong way. That is why. Otherwise there is no others are also getting connected now. You just click on the button which is needed, then it will not say, because maybe you are clicking on the wrong disconnect the call. It will not say if it is you are not connecting to call. Try to connect in right way. Practice it once with someone.
Many times it's happened.
So it's happening with you again and again now. So just try it once before you join the class with anyone, that why this problem is coming, or with me only you try it once. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, electrical double layer we were discussing. So this is electrical double layer and zeta potential is the potential difference between these two layers. Okay, so these are some minute things which are there in this topic, and questions are framed from these. Zeta potential also has been asked once. Electrical double layer also has been asked once before. Okay, now we'll come to the next topic, that is when these have charges. All colloidal particles have some charges on their surface. So these charges are also coagulated. These charges are also discharge, and then that leads to the coagulation of the particular colloidal solution. So if we want to coagulate a particular colloidal solution, then what are the methods by which it can happen? Okay, so the first method for coagulation of colloidal solution, colloidal solution, then first method is electrophoresis. By electrophoresis process, this coagulation can be done. And what is electrophoresis? If a colloidal solution is taken in a container, okay, and positive and negative plates are connected to it, then what will happen? If it has positive charges, they will start moving towards negative, and this has negative charges, it will start moving towards positive. So because of the application of potential difference, or you can say electrodes are connected, anode and cathode, then the colloidal particles start moving towards those poles and get coagulated on those opposite poles. So this is one of the method of coagulation of colloidal solutions, electrophoresis. Okay, now suppose we had seen in that case previously, when you were purifying the colloidal solution, purification method was different. You were directly not using these plates. When you were doing purification method, then you had used dialysis, and then you had used electrodialysis. That time what was there? There was a bag inside which the solution was kept, and colloidal particles could not move outside this bag, only ions could move and go out. Here we are directly using the colloidal solution so that it gets coagulated. So electrophoresis and electrodialysis are different. Don't connect them together. Now what electrodialysis is there? It can also be called as electroosmosis. Okay, so if colloidal particles are moving towards the poles, it is electrophoresis. When ions which are present in it are moving to the opposite poles, it is known as electrodialysis or electroosmosis. Clear? So one method is this. Then second method is boiling. If you want to coagulate this solution, then you can boil the solution. Because of boiling, what happens? The stability of the colloidal solutions is destroyed, especially lyophobic. Lyophobic salts can be destroyed by the method of the coagulated by the method of boiling, simply by boiling it. Okay. Then more methods is by mixing two opposite charged salts. Okay, some of the salts have positive charge, some of the salts have negative charge. Third method is mixing opposite charged salts. Okay, if opposite charged salts are mixed together, then they will coagulate. It is very clear that why they will coagulate, because some of the salt particles have positive charge, some will have negative charge, so their charges will neutralize and they will get coagulated. Okay, so this is one of the method of coagulation. So electrophoresis, boiling, or mixing opposite charged salts. Then next important method is adding electrolytes. This is important method, adding electrolytes. If you add some electrolytes means such solutions which have positive and negative charges both. Electrolyte are the substances which can ionize into positive and negative in solution. So they ionize, adding electrolytes, they will get ionized, and suppose a sol is having positive charge, so the negative charge of the electrolyte will cause its coagulation. Now, this coagulation by the addition of electrolytes is also known as flocculation. This is also known as flocculation. Now this negative charge electrolyte which is added to it, if it is a positive charge salt, then this flocculation depends on the charge which is present on the particular electrolyte. If it is a positively charged salt and I want negative ions, then I may have suppose N3 negative, O2 negative, F1 negative and FeCN whole 6 4 negative. Now I have suppose these 4 type of ions which are available from electrolytes, then I will require less quantity of this because it has 4 negative charge. It has higher power to cause the coagulation or flocculation of this colloidal solution which is positively charged. So less quantity of this is required, so its flocculation power or coagulation power is more. The one which bears more charge has more flocculating power or more coagulation power. Clear? So less quantity of this will be required, or it is a more powerful flocculating agent. Clear? Opposite to it, if I take a negatively charged salt. Clear? If a negative charged salt is taken, then in that case what will happen? I will require a positive electrolyte. Means electrolyte will have both charges but positive will react with it. So in that case what will happen? If I take Al3 positive, Mg2 positive and Na1 positive, then aluminium will have highest flocculating power because of its more charge, and less quantity of it is sufficient to cause the coagulation of negatively charged salt. So the flocculating power or coagulation power depends on the charges which are present on the electrolyte which is used. More charge has more power to cause the coagulation. This is known as Hardy-Schulze law. Hardy-Schulze law. What is this law? That more is the charge on the flocculating agent, more is its flocculating power. Okay. So this law was given by Hardy and Schulze. That is why this is known as this law, and it is related to the addition of electrolytes to the colloidal solutions. So again, this is important topic, Hardy-Schulze law. Sometimes it is asked that if these are the electrolyte ions of the electrolyte, then which will be more powerful agent to cause the coagulation. So more is the charge, more is its power, and the quantity required of that particular will be less. Now after coagulation of colloidal solution, now coagulation of lyophilic salts. Lyophilic salts are generally highly stable type, means because they have solvation present between the dispersion medium and dispersed phase. So there is a solvation, proper solvation. So it is not easy to cause their coagulation. So for that what is done? Some solvents first. You just want, if you will add electrolyte to it, we think that generally by adding electrolyte what will happen? You will add electrolyte and it will be just getting coagulated. But in case of lyophilic it is not that easy, because it is properly covered by the molecules of solvent, or you can say dispersion medium. So first thing which is required is to make loose the bond between the dispersion medium and the colloidal particle, then only any electrolyte can attack on it. So for that purpose what we need to do, we have to add certain solvent like alcohol. If it is water, already the solution is prepared in water, then we need to add either alcohol or acetone, and that will decrease the attraction or the bond between the two. After that a small amount of electrolyte is added that can cause the coagulation of the particular solution. Okay. Now, because lyophobic salts are there, lyophobic salts are highly unstable. Their coagulation can take place just by adding a little amount of electrolyte. So, we have to provide them stability. opposite to lyophilic. Lyophilic are highly stable. If you want to coagulate them, then we have to add certain solvent which loosen their bond, then only electrolyte will be effective. In case of lyophobic, they are already so unstable, just a small electrolyte can just disturb it. So to provide it stability, what we need to do is that we have to, in this case, what we do is we add a small amount of lyophilic sol in lyophobic sol. If a lyophobic sol is there of having positive charge, so we will add a small quantity of lyophilic sol in it. Same charge. If it is positive, so we will have to add positive. If you add negative charge, then it will cause coagulation. So small quantity of lyophilic sol having the same charge, if it is added, then what will happen? That it will cover it by a sheath. A thin sheath or layer will be formed around it, and that layer of lyophilic will be having attraction, or you can say solvation with the dispersion medium, and this will be known as, this will provide stability to the lyophobic sols. So this is called as, this method which we have followed is known as protection of lyophobic sols, is done by adding small quantity of lyophilic sols to provide them stability. Okay, so this is about the chapter. Emulsion topic has been deleted this year, so we need not to do it. Okay, now there are several applications of this colloidal solutions around us. This few of them we have already discussed before also. There are many points which are given, so that you have to just once again see that what are the particular applications of these colloidal solutions in daily life. For example, electrical precipitation of smoke. Okay, so when electrical precipitation is done, what is there again? If a smoke is a colloidal size particle and it is coming up, if a electrical precipitator is there from the chimney from where it is coming out, then what will happen? Because colloidal particle may have some charge, positive or negative, and when it is coming out through electrical precipitator, then that will be having electrodes on it. So the opposite charge will get precipitated and the colloidal particles will settle down, and only the pure smoke without the harmful chemicals will come out of the chimney. So this is the practical use of it. Then purification of drinking water. The alum, previously, nowadays we are using filters and all, but previously alum was used for the purification of water. So it follows the same principle which is there in the precipitation of colloidal size particles, that alum causes the precipitation of dust or the dirt which is present in water. Alum does not kill the bacteria which are present in water, only the dirt particles, because dirt particles are having negative charge on them, and the alum which we are using is positively charged. It has ions of positive charge, so they get coagulated by the use of alum and form a layer at the bottom which can be separated and filtered. So this is for the this is the practical use of colloidal solution. Then many medicines are also colloidal in nature. Colloidal size particles are adsorbed better in the body, so certain medicines are also made having particle size near to colloidal. Okay, so few more are there, very simple, they are very common ones, so that you can see from the book in the on the last page these uses are given.